Hey everyone. Thought I would start today, or at least this series, with kind of understanding the way I'm going to utilize the complete combatant target. Now, this is a target that Shane and Adam and Brian kind of developed for Rifle Renaissance. And how they're going to use the different portions of this target may be different than kind of how I use the different portions of this target. But I'm going to go over in the next couple of videos how I would use some of these things in my own practice and kind of what, you know, I see as a good use of the target itself. Like I said, this may not be how the target gets used at the Rifle Renaissance if you guys are signed up, which you should. However, this is just things that I can do with this target. The cool thing about the development of this target is by the time they got to me for input, everyone had already put in so much input. I was like, yep, that sounds good. I got nothing more to add. You know, I had a couple of key things I wanted in there that the other guys had already put in. So that worked out pretty well. So what I'm going to talk about today is going to be this scaled section, or at least these two scaled sections over here on the left. Um, I know in the class we'll talk a lot about height over bore concerns, right? Or the offset between your optic and the line of bore on your gun, meaning point of aim versus point of impact, different distances, and where you need to hold based on that distance, right? And this is going to change for everyone for every setup. You know, different height riser on your optic, different caliber ammunition, different gun setups, all sorts of things, different 0 points. They're all going to have a different effect. So what you're going to see me do today might not be exactly the same, but it's going to be the same way for you to figure out what you need to do. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to mark this with a little circle, and then I'm going to shoot it, and we're going to see where that bullet impacts at different distances, typically between 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. That's how far we'll stretch it today, and we'll just see what happens. All right, so as you've seen, I marked the target with that little circle. I'm at 5 yards now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up, and then we're going to see what happens when I break these 3 rounds, putting my dot on the circle I drew. So as we can see, with me holding on that dot that I drew, the rounds are not impacting there. And the reason is, the difference between the line of sight and the line of bore going on in my gun. The cool thing about this scale is each of these stadia lines that you see here is approximately a half an inch, right? So 2 lines, 1, 2, that gives me 1 inch, 1, 2, that's 2 inches. So I'm about 2¼ to 2½ inches below from line of sight to line of bore, or point of aim versus point of impact at 5 yards, right? And, when we look at the guns, we can see we should expect that to be the case based on where this optic is sitting versus where, the bore of the gun is sitting. So I expect that stuff to happen. What I'm going to do now, so I can kind of keep track of this, is I'm going to mark that, right? And I'm just going to make a little note that that's my 5-yard group. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to go ahead and we're going to push it back. We'll shoot this at the 10, the 15, the 20, and the 25. And we'll see what happens the closer we get to the actual distance we zeroed this gun at. And this one's zeroed at 50 yards, my preferred zero right now on these carbines. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're back at the 10, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. Okay, let's go look at it. So we can see here now that I've pushed the distance back, even just only 5 yards, we've got a little change to the point of impact. Using the same point of aim, which is that dot, I've lost about a half an inch or so of elevation. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark all three of these. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shoot this. I'm going to keep you guys on the target. I'm going to push back to 25. We're going to notice a couple of different things. But the pattern should sort of follow. So we'll see. So as you can see, the greater the distance I go, right? Anywhere I get closer to the distance I actually zeroed the gun, the smaller the deviation is going to become, right? So what we're really getting at is the closer I get to my zero distance, the less concern I have about height over bore concerns or hold off concerns, right? Now this changes once I get past my 0 point, right? And this is where we have holdovers, but it still applies anytime I'm not at my zero distance. So you can see here at 5 yards, I've got roughly 2.5 inches below my point of aim to my point of impact. And once I start creeping further, right, we go to the 10-yard zero, I'm about 2 inches. 15 yards, I'm about an inch and a half. 20 yards, I'm about an inch. And finally, 25 yards, I'm about a half inch. Now, mathematically, I can't tell you that a half an inch is where it's going to be every single time, but I can tell you that on that gun, for that ammo, for what I'm doing here with my zero, that's kind of where it's playing out, plus or minus, right? So why is this important? Anytime I get inside that zero distance, right, at least for me, between 0 and about 25 yards, right, I need to start holding for height over bore concerns. Why do I say out to 25 yards instead of all the way to my zero distance, which on this gun is 50 yards? At 25 yards, the deviation is so little for my zero, right, about a half an inch. I cannot hold the gun consistent enough in order to hold off and make any significant change. The only thing I can do is if I start holding for this setup high on that, chances are I'm going to start missing high because I'm not going to be able to hold a half an inch one direction or another. So for me at 25, that's the point where I start going point of aim, point of impact on my gun, right? However, anytime I'm inside of that, I have to have some type of holdover. The correct holdover is right here, right? And that's why we do this. It's so I know if I have to make, let's say, that headshot at 5 yards, if I hold here, well, the impact is going to be 2.5 inches low. Now, while we might be able to get away with that, we might not. So at 15 yards, if I hold here, the impact's going to be here. So I probably need to bias the sights high based on the difficulty of the shot, right? Or the restriction of the shot I'm trying to make. So in order to do that, I have to know these holds, or at least relatively where these holds are, right? So like I said, for me, anywhere between 0 and 25 yards, I'm holding over based on, a couple inch deviation. Anything 25 and out, I'm holding point of aim, point of impact. So that's one of the things on this target I really like, right? It gives me a mathematical way to really understand height over bore instead of just guessing where I need to hold the sights. It gives me an actual graph where I can see it. So I hope you guys got something out of that. If you want to learn more, I highly encourage you to sign up for Rifle Renaissance and see the way the other guys use these different things on the target. They may have a different purpose for that scale, and that's totally cool. They may have a different purpose for, these headshots or these bars that we may talk about later. So I invite you guys to sign up. Make sure you sign up on the Complete Combatant website. They've got the link there to the Rifle Renaissance, and they'll get you guys squared away. Also, these targets are available to purchase through them So I would check them out. It's a really great target. Granted, I'm slightly biased, but that's okay. Got a lot of cool stuff, and we'll talk about some of that in the future. So until next time, guys, I'm AJ with Practical Performance, and we'll see you then.